Hey everyone, you're listening to the Space Explored Podcast. I'm Seth Kirkowski, Editor-in-Chief, and we're going to be joined shortly by Jared Sanders, who were both mobile this week. So bear in mind, you might hear some weird audio hiccups here and there because we don't have our normal setups. Next week we'll be back to that, hopefully. But this week we have about an hour-long podcast, much longer than normal. We talk everything from a whole frenzy of launches from last week to Elon Musk trying to get peace talks with Ukraine and Taiwan, apparently, to the bulk of our discussion on Astra's stock price now with the fear of it being delisted. So, hope you enjoy. Let's get into the conversation with Jared. Look at us, two men with handheld mics this week. So you're at your house. You're fine. You just forgot your mic stand. I'm in Vegas this week. As you can see, I don't have the wood pan this week. No wood paneling.
You should have put it up against the window so we could see like the skyline.
My view is just straight up the casino roof. It does face strip. It does face a strip. I just can't see it. I'm on the 5th floor, so it's not like super high up, so I can't see over the buildings. So yeah, oh my god,
how's it going out there?
It's going. I'm down $5 on electric roulette, and I didn't win the first day raffle, so I'm down. I'm down so far in Vegas. If you guys don't know, I'm out here for DJI Airworks, which is a enterprise conference. So if you're into enterprise drones, I'll be over writing about it over on Drone DJ, our sister site. So I'm editor-in-chief here, and I'm also editor-in-chief there. So, but this week, breaking news. Actually, breaking news. There's no breaking news. No Artemis 1 update.
No Artemis 1 update. Yeah.
Which is like
actually. It's funny. I posted a picture in a Facebook group of my car. I had to take a picture. I was out last week shooting Crew-5, so I took a picture of my car. Like with the VAB in the background, like classic. Like, oh, I'm here. This is kind of cool. And I posted in this Facebook group, and the first comment I got was like, "Hey, is Artemis hiding inside of there still?" And I was like, "Sadly, yes, it is."
Yeah, it's still in the VAB. No news on it. But what news we did get this week about new launch is a Falcon Heavy launch. So you have not seen a Falcon Heavy? Have you seen a Falcon Heavy?
I have not seen one. No, last time, the last one that went up, I was still living in California, and I did not make it out here for it, so I've never seen one live. I watched the telecast. But the sad thing is I might actually miss this one because I have to go to California the weekend it's scheduled. So
you're so cursed with the California trips. They just line up perfectly for everything.
I think it's you know what? It's like the end of September through October has just been like, if there's a launch, chances are I'm going to go ahead and align something else that I've already got planned up against it. So
yeah, and I'm just out here just like I applied for it, and I don't know. I'm still up in the air if I want to go because it's like end of October, possibly is the current 28th or something like that.
Yep.
And this is the first Falcon Heavy 2019. So those who have just joined in on the whole spaceflight thing, the Falcon Heavy is the technically the most powerful rocket that flies.
Yeah. Yep.
SLS will, of course, top that out once they actually launch.
Right.
The one I currently flying is Falcon Heavy. It's practically 3 Falcon 9 cores strapped together, and they launched the first one in 2018. This was my first rocket launch, Falcon Heavy demo, first rocket launch. Yeah, so saw it from Orlando. I convinced our entire class to leave lab that day and go out to the back of the school and watch it because I wanted to do it. I convinced our lab instructor to do it, and the lab instructor goes, "Well, I have either in the room or everyone has to leave the room with me, so we're going." So they had 2 more in 2019. They had the first one, of course, launched Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster out ish towards Mars, technically on Mars, but ish. Then the second 2 were 2 commercials. was a DoD satellite, and then it was a Arabsat. Arabsat was the second one. SCP-2 was the third one, and that was the first night one SCP-2. So I have some nice streaks of that with the return. Apparently, so USSF 44 is the mission, and I thought the mission was going to be so of course the last three Falcon Heavies have all had the two side boosters land at both LZ1 and 2 over in Cape Canaveral Space Force. It launches from 39A, and then the two side boosters land at LZ1, LZ2, and then the center core attempts to land on a drone ship.
Yep.
They have yet to recover a. Wait, technically, I can't remember. I think the first one technically landed on the drone ship, but then it tipped over. I think that's what happened on the first one. I know one did that. One did not make it even close. It actually, you know what? Okay, no, the first one I think yes, the first one did not land on the drone ship. I remember this now. It just crashed hard right next to it, and then the second one landed on the drone ship, but they didn't technically have a way to latch onto it with Octograbber. So if you guys don't know Octograbber is the little robot that drives out and clamps onto the booster and keeps it steady. The new center core is a little bit different, and they didn't have the ability to do it. And the third one aborted the landing, which is interesting. It was really interesting to see that. It was actually like it was coming in, all of a sudden, like it got a little too spicy, and it just like tilted its angle, and like you can see it was actually the perfect because there wasn't the vibration that disrupt the video signal out in the drone ship. So you got a perfect view of it flying almost sideways away from the path, which was really funny. So this one, we all thought what was going to happen was the two side boosters would land on the two drone ships. This is the whole why we got a shortfall of gravitas, is because we needed more drone ships. Because Falcon Heavies. Okay, so the reason why we don't have a lot of Falcon 9s is because the Falcon 9s got upgraded to kind of take over the Falcon Heavy missions. And then the Falcon Heavy missions were going to like start launching really big payloads for the DoD, and they needed it was too much to return the boosters. So the plan was, it was going to be, they were going to expend the center core, so it was just going to launch and land, and then the two side boosters were going to land on drone ships. This one, apparently, they're still going to expend that center core. They're not going to recover that, but the two side boosters will land at LZ1, LZ2.
Yeah, yep.
So that's why I'm like, okay, I kind of need to go. It's my first rocket I've ever seen. It's kind of special to me. I haven't missed one since. But like traveling end of August into end of October, then into September. No, what month are we in there now? October.
It's right now slated for the 28th, so the end of October. Yeah.
Yeah. So, end of October, and then back into November for Artemis 1. It's gonna be rough. So that's kind of how that all is working out right now. But I'm super excited. We haven't seen one of these in such a long time. Then we also have two Delta 4 Heavy, the last two Delta 4 Heavies coming from Florida as well. Like
that seems like a lot of big rockets coming up, right?
The Heavies are back.
Yeah.
Long live the Heavies. So it's gonna be an exciting year of heavy launches, because we have more Falcon Heavies coming next year as well. So super excited for that one. Now another super exciting thing that happened this week is we had Firefly. Firefly came in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we talked a little bit last week that they launched and they made it into orbit, which is super awesome. And after I look back in the notes, we didn't talk about it. So Firefly launched over the weekend. I'm trying to remember when this actually happened. It wasn't Saturday, October 1st. Nope, it's later in our notes. I just gotta look down like two more lines. Saturday, October 1st when they launched. So this was like just before our last episode. And they target a 300-kilometer orbit. So if you notice, the first Firefly mission did not make it to orbit. They actually they had an engine issue, and so they had to over the rocket. So been a while. It's one of two, other than Starship, one of two RUDs that have happened at in Spaceflight. We had a abort, which was planned, of course, and then this was kind of and of course all the Astra launches, but like some of that we got to see really good photos of. So because we have press, because press were out there. However, independent observations have determined that the payloads that were launched, there were 7-ish, I think, or maybe 5, I don't know. They were only into a 200-kilometer orbit, which is not 300. That's math, right? That's how math works. Which means most of them have already deorbited. Already, been a week and a half. Already deorbited. Yeah, well, space vapor. They don't exist anymore. There is apparently one more that's in orbit, at least as of this morning. Who knows if it's still in orbit now? And Firefly finally got back for comment. Like this came out like middle-ish end of last week, and it took them till like they reached out finally to the Space News. Jeff Faust finally got a hold of them, and they stood back and they're like, yeah, no, we met every expectation we had. I'm like, yeah, but you missed your orbit seemingly by 200 kilometers. That seems wrong. Like that seems like you missed something. So I don't know. Like they made it to space, so at least the first stage is good. So I don't know about second stage, but
Yeah.
I don't know when they're looking at launching next. I think they're. I don't know when the next launch is. I think they're going to try to launch out here in over there in Florida. I guess technically, yeah, over there. I'm technically out here on the West Coast now, but I think that's when the next launch is. So I don't. There's no investigation into it. There was a NASA payload, and NASA said that their mission did deorbit, but their mission wasn't going to last that long anyways. I think it was going to last for 10 days, and I think it lasted like 7 days. So they're looking over and they got data and they're looking over the data. So I guess that wasn't like a total loss, at least for NASA. I don't know about the other payloads, but that was the only one that got public comment was the NASA mission. So I don't know. Do you think was it a success? Do you think it was successful?
I mean, I guess it depends on. I feel like they could spin it always. Companies can spin it like, yes, we were testing, it was a success, and we got to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't make it, then technically it's not a success, right? And if you lose, I mean, it had cargo, so I mean, the payload, was lost. So
it's kind of like all the Astra launches, which we'll get to later. But right. Yeah,
the Firefly rocket's tiny too, right? It's pretty small as well.
Yeah, it's not as small as like Astra or Rocket Lab. It is a little bit bigger, but it's more.
Astra's like a firecracker.
Yeah. Well, the Falcon, the Electron's the size of a Falcon 9 landing leg. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, like it's tiny.
Sorry, it broke up. You froze for a second. Say that again.
Well, the Electron rocket's the size of the 9 landing leg.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like that's. I mean, they're both tiny.
Yeah.
Rocket Firefly is a little bit closer to. It's big. It's still a small sat launcher. Like it's still a small. It's like a light launcher. I don't light class launcher. I don't know what they're called. But they're pushing it. Like they're pushing what they're capable. They're capable of that rocket is. But yeah, it's kind of like all the Astra flights where Astra was kind of like, well, we made it further than before, so it's a test. Like, which when you're developing a rocket is a totally valid way of looking at it. Like, if you're developing a rocket, super difficult. Like, it's not trivial, especially since it's not like open source. Like, it's not like software where you can open source it because of trade laws. Right. But it's a little expensive. You kind of got to like redevelop the wheel every time because you got to kind of a lot that are just you're not going to be able to share from other people. Mm-hmm. So being able to say like the first mission having an engine failure and not even making it to the Kármán line, and then this mission sending someone into a low orbit, even though it's not, and I was in the right orbit, it was a low, is an improvement. So
yeah, I would say that if that's the way you're going to look at it, then definitely it's a success.
Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely say this is definitely not bad for Firefly. I think this is definitely good. It proves that a lot of the rocket works. And now they just have to launch again and get into the right orbit. And if they do that, they're already on a better track than other companies, and they do it a fourth time, they launch and it works again. Like that's solid. That's a solid that's solid launcher. So unlike other people in the industry. Speaking of launching, Jared, do you know different ways of how to get to space?
Different ways of how to get to space.
You know how they get to space, right? You know.
Well, I mean, I know how they get to space, yeah, but I don't know if I could get to space.
Well,
Wait,
you have rockets.
Google Maps,
Okay.
Apple Maps. Okay, fair enough.
Okay. outside the box. I like your thinking. I didn't have rules on
right.
what you meant by space.
So, all right. So if we're going by vehicles to space, right? There's rockets, and then there's the Virgin plane, right? Something like in that fashion.
Space plane. Yeah.
Space plane.
It's a rocket, but it has wings, so it's different.
Yeah. It just starts in a different position. That's all.
Yeah. But did you know that you can spin something in space?
You can what?
You can spin something in space.
No, I did not.
Technically not.
I did not know that.
So a company called Spin Launch, they're working out of Spaceport out in Nevada. They apparently just did their 10th test launch. So most rockets, the way they get to space is they start at the ground. They got a big booster. They light it. They go up to space. Spin Launch has a different idea. A centrifuge. So you know centrifuge.
Yeah.
Put it vertically, spin it real quick, and all of a sudden once it gets fast enough, they just let it go at the right point to where it goes up.
That's like if the Gravitron Carnival ride just like took off.
Yeah. It reminds me. My thought was I'm sorry. You might be too old. Is from Jimmy Neutron when they went to space, and all I remember is the "Poor Kids of America," like that song. And they had the Ferris wheel, and it starts spinning, and just lets go, and there's rockets on the side that takes up. Yeah, that's how I look at this. So they did their 10th launch. So it spins up, and then there is a rocket on it, and it launches. So it's just kind of like the idea of it is to give it like a bunch of momentum right away. It's like this. It's the same theory as like a normal rocket. It's just a different way of doing it. I guess the biggest question is like, is this even possible? Like, when that's we get into the scientific side of things. Like, is it possible? Like, who knows? But they did test. This is at a 1/3 scale. This haven't actually. So we're not talking about orbital launches. We're not even talking about launches.
Car size then?
I don't know what the size of their. This is gonna be big. Like I don't know what the size is, but like I think it's gonna be. I think like a London Eye probably big.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit smaller than that. Like, but I don't know the actual dates, but like that's to my understanding, it's gonna be the finished product is gonna be huge. So like a 1/3 scale from that. So maybe like a amusement park size Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep. Okay.
So that's kind of the size of like the centrifuge, and then they have a little dart pretty much at the end. So it's not. I don't think they're igniting anything. Like it's not actual launch yet. That's when I think it will get serious. If they ever start, you can spin pointy arrows and chuck them into the desert all day long, but you kind of gotta like launch stuff out of it eventually.
Well, so is it sitting on its horizontal axis and
No, it's vertical. Yeah, so
it's vertical.
Huh. Yeah, so it's vertical, just like a Ferris wheel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
and then
crazy. Okay.
At like a certain point, I'll just like let go. Yeah. See, we're learning here.
And then physics takes over, I'm assuming, and helps.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like it helps. It's kind of like air launching. So like Virgin Orbit and Northrop Grumman, they strap their rocket on the bottom of a plane. They take it up. Yep. It helps them. It means that you can use a smaller rocket to launch it. So you pretty much turn your first stage. Like some people call it first stage, some people call it a 0 stage, whatever. You make that reusable.
Got it. Okay.
So this is kind of like that, but like you keep it on the ground. You just kind of like give it a bunch of momentum through a centrifuge. It's an interesting idea. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it because I think it's a really freaking awesome idea. Like, it's something about it just screams medieval. Like,
Well, yeah, and it's like it's super like sci-fi, right? That's like something you would
it
definitely
is.
see in like a movie.
Like,
Yeah, that's why it's
I
always
want
cool.
to see this thing work so bad. Like, I want to one day like cut to, I don't know where they're launching from. I'm assuming they have to launch them from like the ocean. And since it's technically like not, there's no rocket at start. Like, we can be much closer than these. I'm assuming. I don't know
Right,
if it would. Like, I'm just imagining just sitting there, also just seeing, like a little just a dart just fly out of a hole in the ground. Like,
right, right.
like it just looks. I don't know. Like, I'm just super excited seeing whatever actually work. Okay, whether or not it works, who knows? But just to see it like, uh, just do a
In
test launch
action, yeah,
field test would be fun.
totally.
So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it feel it. I mean, it definitely feels a little dangerous. Like if that thing goes, it seems
what
like
you
there's a
saying,
lot
a
that could go
rocket?
wrong. Yeah,
I mean, you're
there just
saying a
seems like
rocket full of fuel and its own bomb materials is not dangerous?
well, yes, but
It's all
I guess
dangerous.
at least yeah, I feel like the difference is though that's like going this direction where this could go this direction. You know, I don't
Yeah, if
know.
something like
It
flips out,
just seems
I
more
don't.
dangerous.
I think I'm pretty sure their test like system is above ground. I would assume they would put it underground for the full scale. I mean, like, because yeah, you're right. If that thing like it's supposed to release like kind of like up and going out,
Right.
but like if it releases going like, I guess going
Yeah.
like that way, and
Or
you're
some
like
other direction. Yeah.
you're gonna fly that thing to Orlando.
Yeah.
You're gonna take out Disney World.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, like so I would totally imagine like they could totally build a thing like if they do it underground to where like if it heads that direction, or at least like the
Hmm.
bottom portion of the ground, like just hits land and like it just stops.
Right. Right. Just
I mean,
stops.
might make it a couple hundred feet, but like maybe it makes it a US 1. I don't know.
But I think you know what I do think is cool about stuff like this, and this is, I guess, sort of where the commercial sector does a really good job of is just coming up with new innovations,
Yeah.
and just the more competition, the better for the entire industry, right? Just like any other like any other
Hmm.
industry. If there's more people trying different things, it's just faster ways to figure out how not to create the light bulb, as Thomas Edison would say, right? Yeah,
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that's super cool, and
that's cool.
it's cool. Like I think there's a lot of skepticism about it, which I think is
Sure,
totally
it's
valid.
fair.
Like it's totally fair to be skeptic on this. However, I'm always excited to see crazy shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um,
Where's
so
the
going,
are they American?
yeah, to my
Okay,
understanding, yeah, they're US. They're launching out of Space for America, so that's in Nevada.
okay,
So that's where Virgin Galactic flies out of. There's actually a
right,
good
right,
amount of companies apparently out of Spaceport America. I mean, they're a lot of it, I guess, like apparently like research and development. Like,
hmm,
there's not a lot of like commercial stuff, which was kind of the reason why they built like practically a massive airport in the middle of the desert. Um, so they're hurting a little bit, but yeah, so pretty much it's funny they launch these things out of Spaceport America, and then the projectile that they're test launching lands in White Sands, which is like technically Spaceport America is like in White Sands, but
all right. When you
technically
say the
it's not.
projectile that they're testing, now it
Oh,
gets a little
dude,
dangerous.
no, imagine like a arrowhead, like a little just like a little dart, just throwing darts. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
and there's this like super javelins. Yeah, it's pretty much what they're doing. So
dude, the sound that thing must make is crazy, though.
that's why I'm like, what sound
Yeah,
is the thing? Because it's gonna be going supersonic.
right.
Yeah.
But in a but a
So
different, it's a different force making it to the supersonic speed. So
hmm
that's
so
it's pushing some air.
I, oh yeah, I just want to see this thing full scale launch once. The
Yeah,
company can fail afterwards. I don't care. But if they make it the one full scale flight and we can all
that's
see
a
it.
win, dude. That's a
That's what
win.
I want. That's a win. That's a
According
win in my book.
according to Firefly, that's a win.
According to the Firefly, that is a win. So Firefly started off this launch again on October 1st, and that started out a week of launches. So let's go through the list of launches we had this week. We had Firefly on October 1st, like we said before. We had Atlas 5 on October 4th. And that was, what was that flying again? SES, right? It was the 100th Atlas 5 launch. Yep. So that flew out Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we had on October 5th, we had 2 launches from SpaceX. We had Crew-5 here on LC-39A over in Florida, and Starlink 4-29 out of Vandenberg in California. So that was the Crew-5 was in the morning and it was at night. And next we had a diff. We were supposed to have a Starlink?
We were supposed to have a launch. Well, it was supposed to be 3. It was supposed to be 3 SpaceX launches. So it was going to be Crew-5, and then was it? Oh no, I can't remember. Hold on.
We were supposed to have 3. We were supposed to have 3 SpaceX launches in a row, weren't we?
Yeah. It was out of Canaveral. Yeah, out of.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was supposed to be 3, but then one got scrubbed 2 days in a row, which was the one that actually ended up being one of the best photo ops of the year.
Yeah. So on Friday we had Electron out of New Zealand that launch, and then we had SpaceX on Saturday, which produced some great photos. We always love it when the rocket crosses in front of a full moon or sun or whatever. So I don't know if that's the first time this year. I know it's happened a couple times.
That was,
or maybe it was a sun I was thinking of. I don't know.
So yeah, there's been a couple of solar transits. There was one other opportunity earlier in the year for the lunar. Sorry, got some background noise, guys. Sorry about that.
I got background noise too, dude.
For the lunar transit, but it got scrubbed, and then they never lined up the lunar transit again, and then this one got scrubbed twice, which was kind of crazy, but they kept it all at the same time, so the third launch was still at the same launch window time. So it lined up pretty nice. Unfortunately, I missed it. I was lined up for day 2. I was getting ready. I was like 3/4 of my way there, and was getting ready to line up, and then they scrubbed it. So unfortunately, I missed it. But our team got some, and you can just go out online and see some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, so really awesome photos that came out of that one, and then just to throw in the mix, 2 Chinese launches as well that last week. So let's
busy
count
week.
them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 launches in 7 days.
Yeah, that's pretty insane, man.
That's impressive. Yeah. Actually, 6 days? No, 7 days. So yeah,
so it was
Sunday to Saturday. Yep, from Saturday to Saturday to Saturday. Okay, whatever. Too much thinking right there. So 8 launches, 7 days. That's impressive for a week of space launches. It was pretty busy last week with launches. All right, we need audio. We need audio transitions so bad. Just
set up the board.
Set up the board into our main topic this week, and that is Astra. I don't think we haven't talked much about Astra on this podcast because Astra's been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So Astra, if you don't know who Astra is a small sat launcher, but also trying to be kind of the all-in-one, like one-stop shop as well for some parts. We're going to space. They own they've acquired a few other companies to build other items. They're also they're selling like their engine that they sell that's just for small satellites. So they're doing more of the launches, but that's kind of their core business. They went public about a year ago as a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. So this was super popular during COVID for some reason, and pre-COVID, for companies to get acquired by these. So pretty much the whole purpose, as per the name, special purpose acquisition company, the whole purpose of a SPAC is to take funding and buy a company and then take them public. So they're publicly traded. SPACs are publicly traded beforehand, or you can only trade them. And then when they acquire a company, that stock turns into that company that they bought. Rocket Lab did it. Virgin Galactic did it. Redwire Space is another company that did it, and did it. and this brings in a lot of capital for the
Mm-hmm.
company, and they allow them to take that money and build their business out. SPACs in the past year, 2 years have really gone down. Like Astra peaked, like I think they're like $15, $16, something like that when they went public, and that was their high. They've gone down ever since. Most companies have, like most SPACs have, in the last 2 years. That's both poor performance from SPACs overall, not just space, but through the economy worldwide,
Yep.
as well as economic downturn that we've had for the past, since beginning of this year. However, a lot of the companies have, while they're going down, they've still been able to pull through and stay relevant because they're still solid businesses. Like they were a solid business, they went public, and they're continuing to be a solid business. Astra has is not I don't know, in my opinion, they chose a terrible time to go public. Like they should not, like, I don't know if they were having an issue finding private capital to fund them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why they had to go SPAC, or maybe they really thought CFO really thought this was a great idea, like to go public. But
You think it
practically,
was a WeWork situation?
like,
They were just
I don't know,
burning cash anyway.
like, yeah, like, but the difference is, like, once you go public, the reason, so like when you're private, you can do all these funding rounds and you get
Right.
billions and billions of dollars. When you go public, it's kind of harder to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can still do it, just have a bunch of shares in your company. But it kind of limits how you can do that. So it was already about a month ago. It was beginning of, I'm trying to think months again, August. Um, their stock price either go down, continue to go down. They had a failure. They had a few failures this year. The first tropic mission failed,
Mm-hmm.
and so that
That one I saw.
every time they've launched, they've had a issue, and like a lot of these companies, like the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, like freezes their
Right.
trading because it gets super volatile when they launch, when they fail, and then, which was kind of a shock to a lot of people. Astra kind of goes, okay, we're done with Rocket 3. We launch failed. We're going to look into that, but we're done with Rocket 3. We're going to go into Rocket 4, which I think shocked a lot of people because they had missions planned, and NASA had two more tropic missions that they were going to stick with and perform with Astra. But they're kind of going back to R&D world. Like they were kind of still in R&D, or they were at least still in, like, they went through the toughest phase of R&D, and now they're kind of like in this lot. If I don't know how many people are going to get this reference, they're in the 90%. They completed the first 90%, now in the last 90%. So if you don't know that reference, it's a software engineering reference, or I don't know, maybe it's elsewhere too. I've retaught in college as a software engineer. The first 90% of the work is hard, and then that last 10% is like as hard as 90% of the work.
Yep. It's harder.
So,
it's actually harder.
Yeah, it's usually harder. It's usually much harder. That's why it's like 10% of the work, but it's like it's just as hard as 90% of the work, or 90% of the time spent in the last 10%. So they're kind of like in that phase right now. But that's like kind of the end phase. Like it's hard, but like the ends and the getting this rocket, commercialized. But now they're kind of dropping it and going Rocket 4 means they're back into that R&D phase where they're kind of going to be sitting idle for a while. That took their stock price even lower and went down to less than $1. So I had to look this up. I did a deep dive one night into like NASDAQ rules, to understand like what happens. Dude, like I was on it, dude. So both NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, if you know, for some people who aren't financial, there are two stock exchanges: NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. I did not. I guess I knew it in a way. Like I knew two different things, but I thought they were kind of like the same system.
Yeah, you've like heard it, but you didn't know exactly what they were. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned that part. But they both have the same rule where if a stock goes below $1, they give a 30-day notice. Well, if a stock goes $1 for 30 days, they give a 180-day notice for delisting. That's because as your stock price goes lower, the sways of like even just a couple cents is really big for people.
Yeah,
That's a lot
it moves
of
the market. Yep.
It moves their market much more. It's like saying like it'd be like the equivalent of like Apple losing like a couple $100 in a day, but instead of being a couple $100, you're talking like 10 cents, which is easier 10 cents than a couple $100. So they don't really. It's more for the protection of the. Not at that point. It's not really about the company. It's um, about the traders. They want to make sure the
Yeah, the
traders are safe.
investors. Yep.
Yeah, and the investors aren't going to be prone to a lot of sways. Well, is it
Yep.
not less about like like shareholders, like core shareholders are going to keep their prices. It's more or less for like people who day trade, more like who
Right.
are
Right.
buying into it for a couple of days and then selling it. Like it's much harder to do
Yeah,
it
because
on
if
this
it goes, yeah,
stock.
if it goes down super low, right, everybody's going to jump on the train and want to buy it, pump it up, and then dump it a couple
Yeah,
days later, right? So it's protection against that.
yeah. And so, and to my understanding, this doesn't happen often.
Hmm.
But after continued to go down and stayed below $1 for 30 days, that was last week was the 30-day mark, and they disclosed in a CNBC reported this first. They said they disclosed it most likely on either on an earnings call or a letter into the SEC that the Nasdaq gave them their 180-day warning of delisting. So
Mm.
here's what delisting means. It can mean a lot of things.
You guys didn't expect the financial knowledge drop in the middle
Dude,
of Space
the
Explorer
notes on
podcast, right?
this is above the notes. We have a little note that says 10 to 15 minutes, and I think we've already been on this for like
That's okay. Keep going.
5
It's good
minutes.
stuff.
We were on the first off. It was supposed to be 5 to 7 minutes, 20 minutes. So we never keep the time level.
Stay tuned, kids. You're learning something.
It closed. I have closing for last Friday. I don't know what today's Monday. We're recording, so last Friday, it closed at 59 cents, and it opened. I know I saw it open this morning on Monday at 56 cents,
Ooh.
and it was going down. So like it's still going down. So pretty much they have 180 days. Their share price up to above $1, and there are two ways of doing that. Um, Pretty much the best way I can describe it is there's the right way and there's the lazy I don't know what to deal with it right now way. That's coming from a non-financial expert. So don't this is not financial advice. Um, so the the first way of doing this is getting your share price up above $1. You know, and Astra had, and this is not like Astra is a good company. Like Astra is, I don't think you can look at Astra and say like that's a bad company. Like they have bad management, they
Like a
have bad
badly
engineers.
run
Like
company, you mean?
I don't want to say it's a badly run company. They are building some great machines. They've done some smart things with their money to acquire some more companies. They're pretty much the issue. I want to say the badly. I think they're not badly run at a management level, like at a mid tier man. Nah, I don't even want to say like I don't know much about the CEO, but like and I don't want to accuse anyone of doing anything wrong or bad or whatever. But I think they're bait like most of the majority of the company has is great because they're producing some pretty good items out of that company.
Hmm.
Like Rocket 3 failed, but Rocket 3 made it further than a lot of other companies before in the past. So it's not like they're making it the launch is not a terrible idea. Not a terrible thing to be able to you know say was not good even if you failed. It's still a good thing to overcome. They've acquired other companies. Like I said, they're trying to become like more of an all-in-one stop place for growing the space. Um, Rocket Lab's doing the same thing. So here's the difference between Rocket Lab and Astra. They're practically this is kind of the biggest, the best way to compare the two because they're practically the same company. Small sat
Hmm.
launchers who are acquiring other companies to be able to build other items, so satellite parts, um, or just anything you would need to go to space. They're practically trying to do the same thing. The difference is that Rocket Lab stayed private and they built a good launcher and they made a space and they have a core income or business income, which is through launches.
Hmm.
Then they went public. They got a lot of money through that SPAC, and they took that money and they reinvested it. They're building Neutron, and they've acquired several companies for solar panels and engines and all this other different kind of uh, companies that do different things. And so they've just grown. And the company now is they already all that stuff fails. They can go back on that core
Right. Yeah. And I mean,
business model.
they're more of like a traditional, like homegrown, self-funded
Yeah, they're very much like
company,
SpaceX.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
very
Right.
similar
Right.
to SpaceX, and then
They're
they
not
went public
relying
with
on the public dollars to fund sort of
they're
their R and
really
D, right?
yeah they weren't a startup through IPO or
Right.
technically not IPO, but they're not a startup through public stock exchange, which is kind of feel like what Astra was. Astra didn't have a core business model coming into it. Astra was still building their they're still trying to fund and build their core.
It kind of feels like Astra's like the first like software, like if we're going to compare this like apples to apples for something, right? It's the first like software company that's a rocket company, right? They had a great idea, they sold it, they went, somebody gave them the idea, like, hey, put it on Wall Street. Here's our pitch deck. We don't even have a rocket, but you're going to buy our pitch deck, and then they went public.
I guess
right?
they had a really good like demo. Like they had really good like, here's our test launches. Yeah, they're not, but like we're getting there. Here's the first successful one. Like we're getting there. They never really got to the point where like they never got there with like having a successful rocket. So now they're in this area where like, okay, they put themselves in this corner where they don't have a core business model yet. Like they have a core business. They don't have a core business like funding. They have a core business model, but it's not funded.
Right.
Yeah, it's not set out yet. Could they, if they had like, if funding was an issue, would they get to the point? Yes, of course. But they have to make sure, finance is the reason why you have a CFO. Make sure you can afford things. So that, and then they've put themselves back into an R&D development area. They lost it to tropic missions. NASA said that they're going to replace like allocated flights with other payloads, but they want tropics to launch. They don't want a new rocket. They want it on a Rocket 3. Rocket 4 is not in the Venture class launch vehicle yet, so they have to move it to another rocket. So they got to now pitch this whole new rocket again, and they also now pitched a 2 out of 8 launch attempts record, which is not great, and they have to worry about their funding. So what happens if they get delisted? So if you are a shareholder, you don't lose your shares. Again, not financial advice. Don't listen. I think you're gonna have to say that. And also, like, I do want to say, like, yes, I did used to own a share of Astra. I've sold it a long time ago.
Just one.
Just 2, and I sold them both. 2. I at a loss too as well. I just thought, I'm like, I don't know why I own these. I sold them. So pretty much that they become over-the-counter stocks. So over-the-counter stocks they're less regulated. So there's not, so being on the New York Stock Exchange, on the NASDAQ.
No, it sounds like we're getting into crypto area.
Yeah, crypto is considered over the counter. Fun fact. So it's Astra because of NFT. Oh god, I could see Chris doing that.
Something like that is happening.
I could totally see Chris being like, okay, we're doing an NFT, they're good fun. I don't know. Chris Kemp's the CEO. He's an interesting guy. I've never talked to him, never met him. Just through his recorded stuff. He seems like an interesting guy. So pretty much what happens is they get moved over to over-the-counter trading areas. That's pretty much, you kind of have to work that's where you have to work with a broker directly. Yep. You can't like, there's not like you have to work with a broker anyways, but like the brokers are a little bit different.
It's not Robinhood. We're not buying this through Robinhood. No.
You're not looking at Robinhood. You're looking at calling up someone. They kind of, I'll get
Wolf of Wall Street, huh?
Yeah, I'm looking. Stock? I want to say Wolf of Wall Street yet. When we get to Wolf of Wall Street zone. There are there are big semi-regulated over-the-counter exchanges. There's OTCQX. Don't ask me what that means. And OTCQB. Again, don't ask me what that means. OTCQX is kind of like would not be the place where Astra would go, because they have a minimum trade requirement of $5 a share. So these two are they're kind of like the places you go where you want to become a public company, but you can't afford the price of becoming a public company.
Right.
NASDAQ, I believe the fee is like $75,000, and New York Stock Exchange is $250,000. Just to file the application, I believe that's, or at least that's the fee or setup cost, whatever it is, to become publicly traded. So it's much cheaper on the over-the-counter. You're talking small businesses, businesses that may have had a rough financial time, whatever it is. But companies that want to sell their shares, but can't afford to do it on a listed sites, New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, or some international ones.
Yeah, the blue chip stocks is I think what they actually refer to them. But yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So this one OTCQX, they do have to file. There are reporting things with the SEC, and it's very similar um, uh, to the to New York Stock Exchange and Blue Chip, right? Blue Chip, you said is listed, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So to those places, the listed places. OTC key is very similar to QX, except they don't have a minimum bid. You don't have to have that. Okay. Technically, the limited bid's 1 cent because you can't.
It's got to be something, right? Yeah.
If you're zero, you have nothing.
Right.
So that's kind of like they call it the venture market. So it's kind of like the companies that want to go on there, like they're working that up to be able to have that.
Is that the penny stocks? I wonder if that's considered what the penny stocks, right?
I think these are all considered penny stocks. Yes. Once
Yeah,
you get down to this chart, I think that's what they refer to as penny stocks.
Yep.
So that's kind of where this, in my opinion, probably the place where Astra would go if they get delisted, because they don't have to require $5, but they still are in, like, it is still fairly respectable where there are not regulations per the SEC, but regulations per the people who run the market for filing, for reporting, for having a lot of the practices that a listed site would already have, a listed market would already have.
Yep.
That's why it's called a venture. Like you're getting in the mood of, like, you're getting the rhythm of having like these kind of regulations, and then you get into the big boys up in New York. New York
Yeah, it's almost like if you're a really small company, right? This is where you would start, and then you would go up.
Yes.
But if you're like degrading, it's kind of like a bad thing.
It's kind of like it's kind of like a demotion.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a place where you can kind of sit and work and like kind of build back up. So here's where we get to what I consider is sort of the Wall Street area. The wild west.
Oh, the pink sheets.
I'm pretty sure the pink sheets make an appearance in Wolf of Wall Street. I think.
Oh yeah, they totally do. Yeah.
So there's no requirements for reporting to the SEC. A lot of the companies on here are bankrupt. That's another requirement for the OTCB, is that you can't be going through bankruptcy. So you have to be a company doing companies. Pink sheets is like, I have in here, anything goes, pretty much. This is where you're calling up, like, this is where I'm picturing the only way to buy these shares. So like you're calling someone and it's like Wolf of Wall Street type, like it's the mall. There's like 8 guys packed into his office and they're all just calling and like saying, and they're trying to
liquidating the company basically.
And they're trying to, they're like, here's the best new stock to buy. No one else knows about it. Like that's what I'm like picturing. I know that there's been huge overhaul of these back because of Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
Yeah, this is kind of like, I don't see Astra going here unless, I mean, I don't see Astra at all. I don't know a lot of financial, like I don't know what happens. I tried looking up like what happens when your stock is zero, and everything just goes like, well, you have nothing. I'm like, yeah, but can it go up the 1? Like, can you go from 0? Or if you hit 0, you're done. Like, I don't know, is that the kill screen?
Well, I'm wondering if, like, as you've been explaining this, that's what. So that was my wonder. I'm not a financial guru. This is not financial advice, like you dropped in there earlier. So yeah, like. My guess is they're going to get bought out regardless of whatever this flow is, right? They're probably going to get purchased.
The issue is who would buy them out.
This is like a perfect move for, like, well, you have his name in here. I mean, this is like a perfect move for this guy. I don't know if Elon would buy him. Well, I don't know about Elon, but maybe Isaacman, right?
Oh, yes.
This is like, to me, that's like the perfect move.
Our notes for the first time is 2 pages. Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
And this is speculation. I have no idea. No inside knowledge. We have zero idea. We're just speculating right now. But that would be my guess. About this,
because Isaacman, who we talked about last week, there was a Hubble.
The Hubble, deal.
The Hubble mission, or study for the mission. And he mentioned in an interview, Christian Davenport from the Washington Post. He had a chance to sit down with him and talk with him, and he asked him about the kind of the current market for the launch the launch industry and economy, because that's kind of what Isaacman is. Like he's already gone through the IPO stage, or maybe
Right.
it's a SPAC, I don't know, with his Shift 4 payment, and that's
Right.
publicly
Right.
traded.
Right. His other company.
And so that and so he is a economic man. Like he knows what he's doing. Same thing with Elon Musk. Like they've all gone this route, and they all kind of know what it's like. Man, I didn't think maybe Isaac. Like I don't. That would be interesting because you have Polaris program, which is practically a privately funded space program. The next step is to have your own rocket company.
Yeah, like why wouldn't? Like, I mean, I'm not. And again, this is complete speculation. Obviously, we don't know the financials. We don't know what
But
his
he
goals
would.
are.
I feel
But
like Isaacman would just be
somebody
crazy.
like that,
Yeah,
would come in, and it's almost like, because I feel like these are sort of now, this private sector is just, these are becoming commodities, right? Just like any other industry.
mm-hmm.
And every
yeah.
billionaire that wants to own a football team and a rocket company, like, I mean, why wouldn't it be, or even somebody like, I could see like, Blue Origin, right? Jeff Bezos would be like, well, just buy them up and take all their technology, right?
I could totally see Blue Origin do that too. Like
Yeah.
Blue Origin actually makes sense as well because I mean, I don't know. They have two rockets. They have New Shepard and New Glenn, and there's no new. This is something we're talking about as a hot take in the future one day. Is New Glenn a viable rocket? Like
Right.
Yeah, in a way, and no in other ways. So having to be able to acquire a company and be like, all right, let's take all your technology, take all your IP, and let's. Okay, the issue is like, will they do it? So here, okay.
Because here's the thing.
I forgot to mention the second way of how they can bring their price up to above $1.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, I forgot. So like I said, there's two ways. My opinion was there was the right
lemonade
way.
at a lemonade stand.
Open up a lemonade business. There's what I called the opinion was the right way and the lazy way. I don't know if this is technically the lazy way, but this is what it feels like to me. They could do what is called a reverse stock split. So we all know what stock splits are fairly common. A lot of times
Netflix is notorious for this, right?
Yeah, and every time
Amazon
Tesla does it, it's always like the way you get into Tesla stock is we have to wait for a split.
Right.
The price goes down, you buy up. First stock split is kind of take the opposite of what a stock split. So stock split is if you have one share of a company and you split a stock into like 1 to 4, you get 4 shares in your prices and divided by 4. So if it's $4, $4 becomes $1, $400 becomes $100, whatever it is. That's usually, and the reason why you do that is because you're running out of shares, but you want to create more shares, because that also works on shares. If they're so you can give CEOs more shares, you can give your company more shares, stuff like that.
You create more abundances, basically.
Yeah, you just want more shares. It also brings the price down, and because you get into like Google area where they're $3,000 a share, like not a lot of people buying shares of Google, or you're buying. The only way you can get in is buying fractal shares for nothing. A reverse stock split is the other. So you have 4 shares, and they go 4 to 1. They merge into 1 share. Now you have less shares, but the value of the share goes up. So
so your 1 cent share becomes 4 cents.
Yeah, so you're right now if we're at 50 cents,
it becomes $2
around $2, and now they've reset the clock on there. Now they're above $1, so now they're out of that 100-day tick. This is probably what's going to happen. We were speculating for fun for a bit. This is probably what's going to happen. However, their stock has had very little upticks. So yes, they could do a reverse stock split, and it could go up to they could do it to go up to $5. It's this. I don't think it's going to solve their problem. Maybe they'll give them more time to then get Rocket 4 out and then launch it, and hopefully that goes up. All I know is I'm sure there are alarms and like meetings going on in the CFO's office of Astra right now. I'm sure they have set up a war room, and they're trying to figure out the best way forward with this. So I would honestly say I think we're in the era. I don't know if we're in the bubble. I don't know if the bubble's popping, if there is a bubble.
I don't think
like the
so.
internet, like the early 2000s.
No,
I
because
don't
there's
think.
still, like you said, you said this earlier in the episode. Like, it's not open source technology. It's not like anybody can
Mhm.
just jump on and like people
Yeah,
just jump on and create
there's a
web pages.
there's a good barrier to entry into doing it. However,
Right,
I think now we've entered the area where it's not a guaranteed success.
right.
Like I think we had an era, so we had the 50s, 60s where you had to be a government contractor. The early 2000s came around, and I think it turned to a there were some companies that failed. However, like we had Space at Blue Origin, that's where the startup and kind of like, oh, like there's a lot of funding now from the tech industry to fund these things. And in the past 10 years, 5 years, we've seen a lot more companies ramp up, and everyone wants to get on the space. So like
Mhm.
we saw a bunch of SPACs because a lot of people want to buy in. Now I think we've hit the point where a lot of companies are entering the space, and a lot of companies are showing progress. So just by being a space company does not mean you're going to get a bunch of money to continue going. And I
Right,
think it's going to
but
be like
eh,
Eisman said in his interview, some are going to go away.
well, and that's why I think this is the perfect opportunity for someone to swoop in and buy them.
Another company to buy them and get that
Yeah,
IP.
just
Yeah.
yeah, because it's sort of already, they've made so much progress in
Mhm.
comparison, relativity to the other companies that are sort of like in there adjacent, but um and right now, they're obviously floundering. They need money to keep going, and what they're doing is good. They just, sort of made a few financial missteps probably. But it is interesting. You did say like the stock's not going to go up. It
Like it's been going down since they went public.
Yeah,
Like
I wonder,
there
but
was
I
a
wonder
slight
like
uptick.
what, well,
I
like,
think the issue is that they haven't become so they went a lot of things from with Astra, because I remember Astra also, like they were promising daily launches, they were pushing, like they were kind of promising the stockholders, and there was a lawsuit against it, like saying that's not possible, like
mhm.
that's a lie, like you don't know that's true, like you can't be saying that. So there was a lawsuit over that, and I don't know what the outcome was of that. It was last time I checked with them, they said it was still ongoing. Um, so I would have to reach back out to them and see if that's still going. But um,
But I mean, like, what would be the next thing that would actually make it go up? Like,
Rocket 4 comes out and it launches and it's successful. Then they launch it again, it's successful. They launch it again. Like
yeah, it just belief in the company, right?
like the rocket has to come. Like they have to, or because I don't, because that's their core. That's their whole business is around that, launching
Right,
their
right.
own rockets. They have other revenue streams because through companies they've acquired. Um, however, and they've seen some success. Like there was I think they companies bought a bunch of their like I can't remember what they're called. Is it the Astra engine or something like that they've
Mhm.
called it? Like their small engine built for the company came in and bought a bunch of them. That's seen progress. However, I mean maybe they just pivot and they go away from rocket launches, like a hard pivot. But I think
And
that
just
would be
become a
then
manufacturer.
and become maybe a manufacturer of parts. Like maybe
Yeah.
they sell their engines and stuff like that to other companies. I know that was. However, I think Astra was actually looking at buying other engines. I think Rocket 4 actually was going to steer away from their all internal engines and go to another company. I don't know, or maybe the licensing out of, I don't know. There was a whole thing possibly going on with that, but I don't know anymore. But this is going to be a really interesting to see, because I've always thought in the past like 6 7 months of like, I don't know the numbers and I need to like look into it, but there seems to just be a lot of small sat launchers, and it doesn't seem like like the market is going to be able to support them all. They're
Right.
all great. Yeah, I mean you have, let's put a list of small sat launches. You have Rocket Lab, Firefly, Virgin Orbit, ABL, Astra. Um, I know I'm missing so many. I know there's more. Relativity.
Mhm.
You have ride shares through SpaceX.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Small
SpaceX
sat.
has to qualify in there a little bit, right?
SpaceX has a rideshare program. Um, Neutron's going to be coming on board as a mass, like as a satellite constellation launcher. It's going to be able to launch more, practically another small sat launcher for multiples for ride shares. Vega over in aerospace.
Mhm.
Vega C, the new rocket came out. There's Chinese companies, there's Japanese companies, there's Indian companies. Like India has ISLV. That they have a smaller rocket as well, and they all seem to be claiming like rapid launch and like daily launches. Like Rocket Lab is like, I want to be able to launch like super quick and like whenever you want. Like, and it doesn't seem like the market's there.
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, like it doesn't seem like the market's going to get there. Like it just seems like there's not going to be enough payloads to launch.
There's not enough junk to
If
throw
there
up in space.
if there's like 4 companies launching every day of the year,
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot of satellites going in orbit. And I know my friend Murray Baja over there in Privateers would have a lot of probably words to say about it. So yeah.
Tune in to last week's episode about space junk if you want to know about that.
Reach out to him. Maybe he'll come on and talk about it. We'll just talk about this one thing. But yeah.
All right.
That's enough about Astra. We're already at 1 hour here. We haven't even talked about our hot takes because oh my gosh, we have another one. That's might be a bit. Yeah. I'll have you go and talk about yours.
I'm gonna go first because yours is probably gonna take a little bit longer, but
it is another serious topic too.
Yeah. So I'll start with the funny one then. The funny one. So the funny thing happened on Crew-5. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. Twitter was roasting this terrible render of the NASA meatball on the side of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. So if anybody out there doesn't know what the NASA meatball is, it's the old school NASA logo, the blue one.
Wow. It's the second one.
Yeah, true.
They have the seal, and then they came out with the meatball.
Yeah. But it's one of the more famous ones, right?
Famous one, yeah.
Yeah. It's the classic blue. It's got the NASA writing in the middle. Oh, I'm actually wearing the T-shirt.
You're wearing, I was like, you're wearing the T-shirt. Yeah.
The correct render of it. But anyway, I don't know what happened. I don't know if you heard what happened.
I don't know what happened either. I'm sure like a stencil got put on wrong and then painted over it.
Yeah.
It's
so bad.
It's on the second stage. So it's expendable.
Right.
So it's SpaceX as well. So they saw it live and says we're keeping it. Like
yeah.
I'm sure Elon saw it and goes like, yeah, we're not changing that. That's funny.
Did you see the pictures of it?
Oh yeah, it's all janked up.
It actually looks like a meatball.
Yeah, it's not terrible. So the people listening who can't I don't have pictures of it because we're both mobile. We're both kind of at home or I'm at traveling, so we don't have ability to do
I'm a bit of a design snob, so it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, it's not centered, so it's anxiety
and it's it's not centered. The spacing is all off. It looks like an egg instead of an actual proper circle.
Yeah, I'm sure when you what if this is the first day on the job for some new SpaceX employee.
No hot
everyone's
takes
just trashing them.
Well, I guess the hot take is, like you said, SpaceX saw it happening, and they're just like, no, we're good.
Keeping it. We're not changing it. We're not fixing it.
But yeah, go check out the best part about it is obviously the Twitter garbage comments.
Oh, so many people were coming up I have a better one. It's in paint. It's why don't you just do this?
There's some really funny ones out there. So go check that out. But onto more serious topics. Speaking of Elon.
Freaking Elon. So Elon, he is a roller coaster with him.
I can't wait till this Twitter thing is over. Whatever direction it goes, I can't wait till it's over.
This is not even Twitter, which is hilarious. It happened on Twitter.
No, but I mean him dominating the headlines of will he, won't he, this whole deal with Twitter. I can't wait till it's over.
This dude has just dominated the news headlines for the past year, I feel So and of course we all know Ukraine with the invasion from Russia. He stepped up and he sent him a lot of Starlink terminals.
Super early. It was super early on.
Super early, legit. The guy just it was a Twitter deal. The guy just tweeted him, asked for him, and Elon said sure, and then sent him within a few weeks. They sent a bunch of Tesla Powerwalls to power them mobily, set up weight. There's even videos from Tesla showing how to install use a Tesla wall and adapt it for use on a Starlink terminal. They've done a lot for him. A lot of it was donated. some third party have come in and paid for them. I think Ukraine has paid for some. It's more. There's a lot over there in Ukraine. Ukraine has become a really big user of Starlink, and because of the region. So now Elon is spraying Elon was like he probably walked in Ukraine and been praised for like everything, like would have been a hero.
Right.
And now he just got told to F off by the foreign ministers, I think, for Ukraine. Because just because you're rich doesn't mean you're smart. His idea, and that's not necessarily entirely true because Elon is.
Well, just because you're smart doesn't mean you're smart at everything.
Yes, just because you can build a rocket doesn't mean you can broker peace deals over Twitter.
Right.
And his idea was doing, I guess, was a UN. I think it was UN elections in the areas that it controls, and if they vote yes to see the Russia, then they go back, because the whole controversy is Russia hosted their own referendums in the regions they held, and somehow was it 2013 or 2012 that Ukraine actually had their own referendum to join Russia or not, and they were like the regions that Russia held outside of Crimea were like in the 80s and 70s, I think, percent for staying in Ukraine. And then Crimea was like 50% of some of that. So makes sense. Yeah. So somehow Russia came out with like 90, like it was like 90% join Russia, which is a weird flip from like the 80%. Yeah, it's a little sketchy of that. So his idea was in Ukraine. He just got blasted by it. And dude, just shut up. Like, just send your terminals and shut up. Because it wasn't that much longer. He practically said that Taiwan should be a part of China. Like, it was like he had someone told him that he needs to be a peace broker this last week, and he chose the two most controversial areas to choose peace. Like, he could have just said, North and South Korea should combine. We should get rid of North. He could have said we should get rid of North Korea. I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, I think we all agree about that one. Not we should get rid of Taiwan and Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. And then I think shortly after that, a bunch of Starlink terminals went down in Ukraine. Like, they had a giant outage of Starlink, and I don't obviously who knows.
There's been outages everywhere. Like I'm not surprised that I'm sure like there's been outages before in Ukraine,
right?
But because they mentioned it, and then there even was an argument I saw on Twitter about like SpaceX profiting off the Ukraine invasion when like Elon said back and said that SpaceX has lost about $80 to $100 million off Ukraine because they've been donating a lot of them.
But the marketing,
but the PR was great, and now he's just practically tracked all of it. The issue I have is mostly that his platform is there's having a platform like there's me running Space Explorer, and I have a platform to say things like, I have the ability to say whatever I want. Well, I don't, but like I have the I can say things and put opinions out there and whatnot. Right. And then there's having a cult following like Elon, where it doesn't matter if you're right; these people will agree with you.
Totally. I mean, I think we just got through that right in this past, like with the past.
I think.
Couple of elections and presidencies and
oh, it's still going.
Right.
It's not over. But in politicians, I mean, I guess it's been like that for politics for a long time. There's always been cult followings of ideas and certain individuals. As now it's coming to CEOs,
but now it's at scale.
Is that it's not just politicians.
Right.
And I feel like it made sense for politicians because that's kind of their job is to lead nations, and they need to convince people to agree with them. Now we're seeing not just CEOs, but like YouTubers and like and so many other people who are like have these cult followings where they can just say something and like turn people on a dime to like just because they say it. And I think Elon needs to be really cautious of that, and he hasn't. And I know it's been an issue for so many times because he says he can honestly just ruin things with his tweets. And
well, look what happened to that whole when he went on Joe Rogan, right? He he did, he smoked a little weed and then
Oh,
boom.
so the read in the Air Force was all on him, like for that, which is that was like the biggest on a technicality ever. Like it was like because it was legal where he was doing it, but technically it's still a federal offense, and Air Force is federal, and all this other stuff, and yada
But
yada.
dude,
Like,
don't make no mistake, this guy is calculated and he knows exactly what he's doing when he hits send. I just want to
I
put
hope
that
so. I hope
he
so.
knows. He knows exactly what he's doing, dude.
I don't know,
You
man.
don't become
You don't
become that rich and that smart and have so much social currency influence without being calculated. Like there's just no way, dude. You can't there's no way he's creating like how many of the most influential companies of our lifetime, like I don't anyway.
But he also tweets about pooping, so
which is also calculated, dude.
It's calculated. Dropping kids off the pool is calculated.
Dude, it's totally
that's
calculated.
all. It's for when he takes over
calculated.
He is when he innovates on the toilet industry.
Yeah,
dude, toilet industry, is like only like there's like a handful. It's only like 2 or 3 like builders of like toilets.
Oh, all right. There's our last hot take.
The toilet industry needs to be
industry.
Yeah, the toilet industry needs innovation. We've been using the same dang urinals for far too long. We need new urinals. All right. So that is it this week. That was a loaded episode of great news, great discussion.
This is what you get when Seth's in Vegas.
That happens when I'm in Vegas.
It's midnight on the East Coast.
Dude, it's only 9 p.m. over here, and I feel like this is weird because I wake up at 4 a.m. Because 6 a.m. where I usually wake up. So that makes sense. And I'm like, oh, it's only 9 p.m. Yeah, I go to bed till like 10 p.m. But actually, it's like midnight, 1 o'clock.
Yep.
So, yeah, this is what happens when I pull like 18-hour days. So, I appreciate everyone listening. You can find us all on the major sites. Make sure you like or subscribe and leave a review, preferably 5 stars. Or 4. I mean, I'm not asking for anything big here. Just a review would be great. Just not
3.
I'll take 3. Yeah, lowest. Yeah, not 2. Not 2. 2 is 3, 5. Yeah, 3 or 5. I'll take that. I'll take any of those. Just any reviews. That helps us greatly. So any major podcast site you can find us. You can find us on YouTube where we post. We're not live this week. I think we're going to start doing more recorded stuff and do stuff like that. We're live. And you can also find us at spaceexplorer.com. Follow along with our personal lives, whether or not you really want to or not, because sometimes you get on Twitter. I'm at I'm at Seth Kirk, SETHKURK, and Jared, you're at
Hyperlight, HYPRLYTE.
See you guys all next week.
Have a good one.